In this video, we're going to look at how to model object number 8 from activity 124, Fundamentals of Dimensioning. In this new design file, we're going to start by creating a new component. And for the file name, we're just going to call this model number 8. And we'll say OK. With this component now active, I'm going to go ahead and create a new sketch, and I'm going to use the front plane to do it. I'm going to go ahead and choose the rectangle tool to start off with, and I'm going to kind of create an overall shape for this object. Then I can go ahead and I can choose the sketch dimension, make the height to be 3 inches, make the width to be 3 inches as well. So this is going to create a square, and I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And those are the overall height and width for the object. Then I'm going to go ahead and extrude, and looking at the dimension drawings, the overall depth is going to be 1.5. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to do some subtractive processes to be able to create the shapes that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new sketch. This time I want to make sure that I choose the front face, not the work plane, but the actual face of the block that we created. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create, using the line tool, I'm going to go ahead and create this kind of line right here. So 2 lines that's going to make almost 2 profiles. So you can kind of see how it highlights there. Now using sketch dimension, from this edge to the line that I just drew, this upright, this is going to be a 1-inch measurement. And then from the bottom to this horizontal line, it's also going to be 1 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and say finish the sketch. I'm going to put this in the home view by clicking on the home button next to the view cube. And what I can do is when I go to extrude, I've either got 2 shapes that I can pick from. So I'm going to go ahead and choose from this shape here, and I'm going to cut back into the block, and that's going to be negative 0.75. And that's going to cut that portion out for us, doing a subtractive model. Alright, so the next step in order to create the little corner that's cut out here on the top is I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to choose this face that I have highlighted because that's where I want this to start. I'm going to go ahead and choose the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to snap to this corner, and I'm going to be able to draw this out. Now you can also put in dimensions like this before I click to set the shape. So I'm going to type 1 in this dimension box, and then I'm going to press the tab key, and I'm going to press 1 here, and if I hit enter, they'll automatically apply the dimensions that I've typed in. Then I can go ahead and say finish sketch, and then I can hit extrude, choose the shape, and then cut back into the part, and it's going to be another negative 0.75. So if you do positive 0.75, it's going to come outward, negative is going to cut back into it, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And this will go through and give us our part that we need here. So let's go ahead and hit the save button. In our location, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to expand this a little bit. So here's our practice folder. I'm going to double click in here, and I need a new folder for activity 124. I'll hit enter, double click in there, and we'll call this model number 8, and then I'll hit the save button. Alright, the next step to finish out for activity 124 is we're going to need to go to File, New Drawing from Design. And right now under the template, you should be able to see your IED title block A will be a selection that you'll be able to choose. And I'll be able to say OK. And it'll load into the drawing workspace. So from here, I can click on Base View. Here will be my model. Let's see if we can get this to be a 1-to-1 scale. So we'll see how well this works. So I can click. I'm going to choose Visible and Hidden Edges for my style. And I'll go ahead and say OK. Now, projected view, if I select, I'm going to just pick the right side view, and then I'm going to provide the isometric view. And I'll go ahead and hit the green check mark. Now, on the isometric view, I'm going to double left click on it. I can actually downsize it from to a 1-to-2, and then I'm going to go ahead and make it shaded. And hit close. So the isometric view, I'll just kind of move up here in the corner. It's just there mainly for visualization, and then we can use the main views here to dimension the rest. So even on your paper, you only have the front view and the right side view because the top view could be deleted. So, and we just don't need that much information. So I'm going to go ahead from here, under dimensions, you're going to have the dimension tool. So, or if you click this arrow, you got a dimension tool here. So much like what you do, but all you're going to end up doing is setting up dimensions for this object. So when I go through and look at width dimensions for the object, just like on your counts for the activity, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 vertical lines. So I'm going to subtract 1 to give me 3 width dimensions that I need for this object. So I'm going to go ahead and first, let me go ahead and click, so I can click on the corners. So I'll get a green square that'll pop up, so I'll click on this corner, and then I'm going to go ahead, it's going to kind of come out at an angle until I get a little bit above it, and then I'm able to go through and get, or kind of move my mouse back to right above the corner, the original corner I clicked on. And I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room here, and I'm going to go ahead and click to set that width in there. Alright, the next one I'm going to do, just to kind of go through and set this up, so I'm going to click on this corner, and I'll click on this line, and I can click there to set the 1 inch, and then I'll go ahead and click from here to here, and this will go through and share a same extension line. They call this baseline dimensioning, so because it's using the same extension line, and then it goes to the next few features. So this would go through and give me my 3 width dimensions that I need, and I know I'm good there. So the next ones, I'm going to look at my horizontal lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need to go through and have 3 height dimensions. So instead of running this off of the front view, I'm actually going to click here and here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a height dimension right there, overall height, and then maybe here on the bottom I'll go the 1 inch here, and then maybe off this corner and going up to here I'll do a 2 inch. And that way that'll go through and show that. So there's my 3 height dimensions to show how tall it is. The last ones are going to be the depth dimensions. So going from front to back on the right side view, or the vertical lines that I see on the right side view. So I've got 1, 2, 3, means I only need 2 depth dimensions. I definitely need the overall for the 1.5. I'm going to leave a little bit of room there. And then I just need to grab one of the others for this 0.75. And I can go ahead and click and set that in there. And then if I right click and say OK, that cancels out the dimension tool. And this should match pretty close to what you have on your actual paper that you did by hand. And this will finish out model number 8. And now that you have this saved, you can hit the save button. It'll call it model number 8 drawing, and it's going to save it inside of the same folder. You might have to double click and make sure it routes itself to the actual folder, and hit the save button. And now you can always click export PDF, and this will go through. We can say all sheets and say OK, and that'll go through and export this where you can save it onto your computer somewhere. So go ahead and save this, and then you could be able to upload this PDF to the assignment in Canvas. Check out the next video on how to do object number 9 from the same activity.